Get some cardboard sheets. You can get them from appliance stores or car dealers that have body shops, things like that. Large sheets of cardboard or an old rug or something that you don't care about. I used this to catch the fuel that ran out of it. Alright, you're going to want to use some kind of cleaner. I've got knocker loose for the hard bolts, and I couldn't find what a buddy of mine actually recommended to me, but this was the closest thing, with seafoam spray. This stuff will, you can spray that inside the cylinders when you're trying to keep them moist, and so that'll help, and it cleans. I actually used it to clean the throttle body. It was nasty, and I think that's why it stuck. I don't know if all Buicks do this, but the two that I have, when you first start the engine in the morning, you have to actually tap really hard on the throttle to get it to come loose. Okay, but anyway, depending on how long this is going to take you, you might need a battery charger. If you're going to do it in one weekend, don't worry about it. But mine's been taking quite a while because I have a shortage of funds and I have an extra car, so it's kind of whenever I get to it kind of thing. Okay, so, and you're going to need a good source of light, maybe a second source of light, and I'm going to run through the tools that you're going to need. Alright, what do we got here? This is a 5/16 open end box end wrench for the battery. This is a 10mm open box end wrench. 15mm, 13mm, 1/2 inch, 3/8 box end wrenches, and 1/4 inch drive, 3/8 inch drive, 1/2 inch drive, a 9/32 socket, a 5/32 socket, 10mm socket, 5/16 socket, 3/8 socket, short and long, 1/2 inch socket, 1/2 inch, short and long, 15mm, short and long, 15/16, that's if you mess with the crankshaft bolt. Let's see, 13mm, 5/8, that's for the spark plugs. You can get one, you can either use a 5/8 or you can get a literal spark plug socket that has one of those rubber things in the middle, in the bottom of it. Alright, and you're going to need a set of these little picks. Dime store ones work just fine, it doesn't matter. You're going to need one of these antifreeze testers. They're just a few bucks. Okay, you're going to need a plier, a scraper, a magnet, and one of these guys, one of these spreader things. Various screwdrivers. One of them I just used for just to wedge stuff. You're going to need a wire brush. You're going to need these blades, because you use those blades to scrape off the old gasket crap. You can use here's the black RTV I was talking about. You're going to need blue RTV for the water jackets. This is thread lock. You're going to want to make sure and get thread lock. And if you don't have one of these, usually the spark plugs usually come gapped the way they're supposed to be, but my particular Buick, I believe it's 60 thousandths. But anyway, okay, so you're also going to need a 1/2 inch to 3/8 inch adapter, and like I said, a whole bunch of these. Going to need a parts cleaner if you have access to one. That's great, and a flashlight. Okay, here's a good tip. I wish somebody would have told me. You're going to need some gloves too. These actually work pretty decent. Take a needle nose plier and take one of these blades, bend it in half, okay? Because trying to get in here and scrape the head, trying to scrape the valve cover gasket crap off the head is just a bugger. It sucks. When I finally realized how, and you know, that dawned on me to do this, that was nice. It took a lot of time off the effort. Okay, and gonna need some Q-tips, a bunch of Q-tips. You're gonna want to clean out all of the holes, all the bolt holes. I would also recommend, if you have access to one, I would use a grinder with a wheel on it, a wire wheel on it. That you can just use a vice grip and get rid of all the gunk that's on the bolts. That takes a lot of effort off of it. Alright, so you're also going to want a mirror, one of these adjustable flexible mirrors. Okay. One of these is handy for opening all the boxes. If you have some access to some kind of table or something with a whole bunch of compartments on it, that's perfect. If you don't, just try to keep the stuff separate. Okay, and you're going to want to use a compression tester. If you do have a car that's putting antifreeze through the cylinder holes or cylinders, you're probably going to need more than 5 quart capacity to drop your oil. So this is a 10 quart. You're going to want to do that. And you also have to drain your radiator. So you're going to need something to hold that. And my car literally, there it is. My car literally only shot out 1/2 gallon of antifreeze out of the radiator. That's it burned up or blew out the rest of it. You might want some access to an air compressor, but if you're going to do that, if you're going to use the air compressor, do it when everything's covered. Like you saw me earlier, pull a towel off of the manifold. You need access to a shop vac if you're going to be dealing with antifreeze all over the engine. I actually had antifreeze in my brake system. So you're going to want to take all your brake stuff. Okay. You're going to want to check all of your brake lines and whatnot to make sure there's no antifreeze in them. Okay. Get a Dremel or use a power drill or a battery drill, whatever you have handy, and get the smallest gun barrel cleaning bristle brush you can find. And one very last thing here, you may need one of these blades to cut off extra junk. You know, it is plastic, they come from a molding, so you might have to cut off some extra crap. No big deal. Also, you're gonna have to get tape. Let's see, tape. You need tape, what, 1/2 inch tape or whatever it is. What you're going to do is number everything you take apart. Okay. You put the number somewhere where you can find it, where it's going to stay clean enough for you to read it, and then you put it on both pieces, the one that you took off and the base piece. I used my windshield wiper arm, and I tied all my wiring up there to get it out of the way. Depending on the age of your engine, I use Valvoline Max Life 5W30 in the 5-quart jug. You'll also need an oil filter, and you're gonna need some of these drive rivets. They're plastic, and you've seen them in the body of your engine, in the firewall and that type of stuff. Okay. Where am I here? Okay. See this here? That's the dirt wall piece that you can see when you change your tire or move your tire. That you'll have to replace these things here if you take it off, and then that's only if you're going to mess with the lower half of the engine. Okay, and one last thing. I wrote down everything I did. Every time I put a number on a piece of tape, I wrote it down, and I gave a brief explanation. More things here. If you don't have a fill filter wrench, one of those things that looks like half a coffee cup, you can get just one of these rubber things. 3800 Series 2. Remove the cosmetics cover. Remove the support beam rear and number it. And number that, and then put it on the paper. Leave as many nuts or bolts in position as possible, that way you can't lose them. 15mm bolts for the vibration dampener. If you haven't already, disconnect the battery with a 5/16 open-end wrench. If you're going to do any cylinder pressure testing, take out the spark plugs and the fuel pump fuse. If you're going to do a compression test, don't do like I did and spread gas all over the firewall. Go in here, or wherever your fuse box is in the firewall, in the engine compartment, and take out the fuel fuse, the fuel pump fuse, and the fuel injector fuse. That way you can pressure test all you want. Use a pocket screwdriver or small blade to get these clips off. Take off the air induction assembly and clean it out. Remove drive side frame support. Number and remove throttle body wiring. Do all of the counting and the wiring, the vacuum lines in layers. Do whatever's on top of anything else. Get that out of the way. And then go backwards when you get done. Remove the fuel injector wiring. Pull up on the blue tab. Do not try to pull it out. It only pulls up. And then push in on the black tab and pull. Grab a hold of it and pull. Use a small flathead screwdriver to bleed the gas line. Disconnect all these wire casing holders. You might have to turn them around. Disconnect the alternator wiring and the fuel injector wiring. Alternator power cable 13mm. Once you get as much as you can possibly move out of the way, the fuel rails are 10mm nuts. Take note of the direction that the fuel injectors are pointing, and notice that they are not wedged completely in there. As long as the rail is sitting on its mount, that's all you need to know. And when you pull it out, give it a good quick burst and pull it in the direction that they're pointing. Just lay it backwards or hang it off the engine hood with a rope or a shoestring. Just do whatever you can to not damage these lines. Take note of how dirty they are, and you're going to need to clean them up, and you might want to wrap them with saran wrap depending on how long this is going to take you. If you're going to replace them, just pull that clip off and pull hard. It'll pop out. Overflow tank, a couple of 10mm nuts here and here. Pops right out. Remove the belt. It's a 15mm, and remove the alternator.